We are thousands of individuals of all ages, each influenced by our cultures and life experiences, to understand the ground of our being in our own way, sharing a mutual desire to make a difference together for the good. We don't have to think alike, to love alike. It's awesome to be together this morning. Thanks everyone for coming. In that spirit, let's see what we have with any first or second time visitors or folks who haven't been here for a while. We invite you to stand if you're comfortable and introduce yourselves and tell us where you're from. Starting on this heavier side of the room. That just meant more people. Good morning.
I'm Liz Rigby, and Mrs. Mattis, and Peter and Brexit. But Mimi's my sister. And I hate to say this, we're from Florida.
It's okay, lots of people are. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
I'm Lynn's friend, so I'm friends with Mimi and Peter also.
Great.
Well, I'm Phil.
Hi, Phil. Welcome. Joy.
I started very young in Queens, New York.
Good.
Nobody smiled at me.
I'm Jessica. I actually had to move to a nursing home this past September in Asheville, and I've not been here in about a year and a half.
Oh, welcome back. Anybody else on this side? And on this, oh, I'm sorry.
We're here again and again as visitors, but we live part-time on Estill Island, about half the year, and we're back here in Asheville and discovering this church, and we'll try to come more often.
Good.
My name's
My
Kate.
name's George. Welcome.
Okay, well, we'll be here whenever you want to come back. And anyone on this side?
Hi, I'm David.
David? Sue?
Washington, and we're friends with Larry and Juan. So I'm promising to come visit with them for a while, and here we are.
Here for the first time.
Welcome.
Great. We're glad you're doing that. We're glad you're here. Anybody else on this side? All right, well, we welcome you, your whole selves, all your triumphs, your truths, and your doubts, your worries, and your hopes. We welcome you here. If you want to learn more about us, or if you would like to receive our newsletter, or find out how you can be more involved in this whole community, there should be a white card in the back of the pew in front of you. You can fill that out, either place it in the collection plate when he comes around, or leave it on the table in the foyer so we may get in touch with you. Okay, please remember that UUCSD acknowledges with deep respect that the land we are on today is the ancestral home of the Cherokee and of other indigenous people. The Cherokee, through stewardship, understanding, and conservation, survived and thrive in this land. We recognize and should never forget their enduring connection to their homeland and this place. A couple of announcements. The canvas is still on.
Woo!
There we are. If you need a form to state your intention for giving to the church for the coming year, they're in the back. I have one here, I'll give to you. But this is, we're trying to get to the top of this thermometer, so we need all the help we can get. Please help us. Secondly, there is a congregational meeting following this service at 12:30 to work on some changes that we've made to the bylaws that have been requested by you mainly, but some other verbiage and other things we did with the bylaws that we want your approval on, if we can get it. We need a quorum for this meeting, so it's really important that you be here for it. At 1:30, we'll be serving a hot buffet out here with fried chicken, mashed potatoes. No, we're not, but we'd really like you to stay for the meeting, so please do that. And now let's...
One more returning member who has not been here for a while.
All right.
Good morning. Okay, we got a lot to go through today. So, I want to share with you these opening words from the late UU Minister Orlando Brugnola. I had the pleasure of serving a UU Christian congregation when I first started this journey in Brooklyn. She's written these words. This flame is the friend of our most ancient ancestors. We kindle you now to make you visible in this time. Yet in truth, you always burn. In the unique worth of each person, in the imagination, in the turning of the heart from sorrow to joy, in the call to hope, and in the call to justice, burn bright before us, but most importantly, burn bright within us. Thank you, Diane. So please rise as you are willing and able and join us in singing our opening hymn this morning, number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Our responsive reading this morning is from the first woman who was ordained in the United States, Reverend Olympia Brown. She was an ordained Universalist minister. We'll read this responsibly. Stand by this faith, work for it, and sacrifice for it.
There is nothing in all the world so important as to be loyal to this faith, which has placed before us the loftiest ideals,
which has comforted us in sorrow, strengthened us for noble duty, and made the world beautiful.
Do not demand immediate results, but rejoice that we are worthy to be entrusted with this great message.
That you are strong enough to work for a great true principle without counting the costs.
Go on finding ever new applications of these truths and new enjoyments in their contemplation, always trusting in the one God, whichever it is and us.
I want to let you know that Ann Silman said that she feels the love and prayers that you are sending her, and that she is sending that energy back to you. And she said to continue to do that. I also saw Mamie, we had a delightful conversation. And so just letting you know that this is the time in the service when we invite you to come up and share a joy or concern. You have these elements, fire, and you have the earth with these stones. You can drop them in the water. You can light a candle. And the floor is now yours.
I was wondering if I could do mine from back here, since I'm having a hard time walking.
Oh, yeah, of course you can.
My roommate at the nursing home, Sierra Wilson, lost her mother Paula Friday night to her kidney shutdown. So if you could be keeping Sierra Wilson and her Aunt Madeline Oldham's in your prayers, they greatly appreciate it. She's visiting family in Gastonia right now.
Why don't you put a stone in for her?
Oh,
Yeah,
She just baptized.
you've been baptized in the name of the earth and fire and
I got a phone call at 2:45 in the morning from Ann Selman. She told me later that she woke up and didn't know whether it was day or night. And she said, Siri, play Peter, Paul, and Mary. So Siri called Mary.
Wow, okay, so you were not here, but we've changed it, so it's more of a silent kind of joy and concern. You got away with one. But what are you going to do? The stone is for it. Whoever didn't come up, for whatever reason. Very crafty, man. Very good. Very good. It's that time. Yeah. So, my mind's a little all over the place this morning. Please center yourself and join in the spirit of prayer and meditation, and we will have a time of quiet afterwards, and we'll collect this morning's offering. This is called If I Can Pray. There are times when you say to yourself, I can't make it. I can't do it. There are times when you want to sit down and to just quit. There are times when you shake with frustration and anger and underneath a free-falling sense of fear. You and I have known such times. We do not speak of them, perhaps not to anyone in the world, for we don't want to be seen as needy or weak or helpless or just simply at a loss. We do not readily own them, even to ourselves, for we do not like this weak and needy self. This one inside us who wants to be held and comforted, who wants to be helped and healed. And yet giving voice to such feelings, confessing the pain and confessing the very difficulty of confessing the pain, on and on, until we were knotted in our own denials. But suddenly we begin to break free. Before we even noticed it, we loosed the knot, let go the grip, felt the release, giving voice to what we felt. We are ready to try again the awesome art of simply living. If I can pray for self-acceptance, then let me say the prayer. If I can surrender my pride, let me say the word. Let me be done with it. If I can cry out like a hurt child, let me cry until I am done with the crying. If I can ask for a gift of grace, a spirit of joy, a light and ready heart, let me now ask for that. And if I can give thanks for the breath of life, let me breathe slowly and deeply, and let the healing spirit breathe within me. And now, while I have your attention, and while our minds are one, I leave you with the eloquence of silence. And so it is. Just a reminder, the greatest use of life is to spend it on something that will outlast it. And in that spirit, we'll now collect this morning's offering. please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing the UU National Anthem, Spirit of Life. Hymn number 123 in your great hymn list. I was just telling Ro we may get out early today, so that's always a good thing. Have to get to the basketball game after. So for new people here today, the talk today is more like housekeeping, but I think you'll find it interesting, especially if you want to come back. So you'll get kind of like what we're trying to strive for. We're going to talk about shared ministry. It's a concept that's been around at least for about 20, 25 years, well maybe about 20 years, because when I was in New York at the time, a lot of the churches there were trying to adopt this model. If you have not read it as yet, the Spring-Summer 2024 Journal of the UU World Magazine has dedicated the entire issue to shared ministry, and I commend it to you. It was brought to my attention. Anna's not here, she's in the back, but she brought it to my attention and before I got the issue, so I wanted to talk about this. So as I said, maybe about 15 years ago, maybe time flies, but this has been around for a long time, the notion of shared ministry in the Unitarian Universalist Association. Shared ministry was described then and now as bringing out the best in one another. It's less hierarchical, it's a less hierarchical approach, and it asks that congregations rethink and de-emphasize the traditional divisions between the roles of the clergy, religious educators, ministers of music, and lay leaders. So it's a more collaborated, interconnected ministry. No one is more important than anyone else. All individual gifts and talents are recognized and acknowledged. Also stressed is that leadership, and I'm speaking specifically of lay leadership, is involved in the ministry of the church as well. It keeps clergy healthier longer, which I'm a big fan of, and it encourages co-ministries within the congregation. And so I like to look at it as each committee is a ministry in and of itself. A number of, and this is the path that I took, but a number of religious educators are going to seminary now. Some are following a less traditional path, like I did go to seminary, but I was ordained as an interfaith minister. And at that time, I'm sure pretty much now, you could be a member, you could be a server at UU Church, and you could be an interfaith minister. Obviously, you still can. You could be a UUC minister. You could have what they call dual fellowships. And so that, at the beginning, for me, was a pioneering thing, and now it's become the norm. And so a less traditional path to fellowship ministry is going on now. Instead, people are coming in as ordained interfaith ministers or going through clinical pastoral education in order to develop your spiritual care skills. You still have to have your master's degree. You still have to jump through the UUA hoops, but now it's a little looser now. And I mean that in a good way. Lay leaders are taking advantage of online workshops and classes taken on by the UUA. I mean, Monday, I'm going to be taking a class on how to have difficult conversations. So there's all kinds of topics out there that lay leaders can avail themselves to, and at the same time, deepening their faith while serving their congregations and learning and honing their skills. These are all very good things that are going on. There are still others who hold different views on what lay ministry is. And so I want to share those with you. I got this introduction from the article, but I had to do a little more research because the article, we just needed some more voices to be heard. So I want to share those voices with you. This is it's called Shared Ministry, What It Is and Isn't, by Gay Webb, chair of the Committee on Ministry at the UUA. It's when the minister, the lay leadership, and the congregational volunteers work collaboratively in covenant with mutual trust and support towards a what? A common vision, a set of goals, and a legacy for this progressive faith of ours. What it is not, and this is crucial, it's not when there are a lot of individual volunteers doing a lot of work. She says, I don't mean to minimize the great work of individuals, but that's not shared ministry in my opinion, which is her opinion. The key part for me is to work collaboratively in covenant with mutual trust and support towards a common vision, a set of goals, and a legacy. After all, our UU principles begin with the words, we covenant to affirm and promote. And to affirm and promote that our sources end and where we begin, and we enter into this covenant promising to one another trust. This is what shared ministry is. What it isn't is a lot of individual volunteers. An example, the illustrations is in order. If you like music, let's say, if you have a hobby that you really, really get off on and there's a lot of passion, and you come to a congregation and you want to start that going, that's lovely. But if it's not what the congregation wants, if it's your pet project, that's individualism. And I don't know, I've been on committees like that. It just doesn't feel good, but it's hard because we pride ourselves on our individualism, and I'll get into that a little more. But sometimes individualism runs amok in Unitarian Universalism. In the words of another UU minister at the Church of Annapolis, Reverend Fred Muir, we are being held back and stymied. We are being held captive by a persistent, pervasive, disturbing, and disruptive commitment to individualism that misguides our ability to engage in changing times. Another example of that is a lot of us come from other Christian, Jewish backgrounds. Not just that, and we've been wounded. And so you come to UUism. And anything that smacks of your wound or triggers your wound, calling the word church, saying the word church, singing hymns, using the word worship, things that you might want to see a therapist about. Because if you haven't, if you're in your 40s and 50s and you're still angry at your mom, you really haven't left home. And so, I'm serious, because what happens is anything that smacks of church, like we don't like to quote unquote proselytize, to tell other people that we exist. I've been reading all this material, whether it's in the New York Times, the Washington Post, about people, some of them they call themselves nuns, N-O-N-E-S. They're leaving religion in droves. And they're saying, if I could find a congregation where I didn't have to leave my brain at the door, if they were just open for people who thought differently, whether everything that we welcome here, they say, I can't find that church. And I'm saying, we're right here, but nobody knows about us because we don't want to tell them about it because we don't want to proselytize. So, and it's like the gospel of UUism. It's good news. And these people are dying to find a place to go. They're talking to these major media outlets, and they don't even know that we exist because of the wounds that we have. Not all, but some individuals, and so they're keeping us from growing. The minister of the UU congregation of Frederick, Maryland, the Reverend Dr. Carl Gregg, says in a blog he wrote, "Who's in charge here? The dance between shared ministry and authority." He shares that shared ministry is about partnership. It's about power with instead of power over. We are together in this way of transforming ourselves and of transforming the world. I wanted to get this is a Christian bishop, because we're not the only ones who try to see how this plays out. His name is Stephen Pickard, professor of theology at Charles Sturt University. He's concerned that our patterns, the church period, our patterns of working together are not instinctively collaborative. He says that teamwork of shared ministry is the way a community flourishes, even amidst the pain and conflict. It's no easy street, but it's the street upon which the church has to travel. Essential to shared ministry is a commitment to those outside the immediate church congregation. It should not be about evaluating the church's activities and church's development. It needs to be about the church's mission, examining the place of the congregation within its neighborhood, how it is perceived by non-church goers, and the partnerships it has or could develop with community groups. Remember, these are just people's opinions. If they stick, then hold on to them. If not, it's all good. A responsive, mission-focused congregation must recognize that change is inevitable, and thus must develop approaches to ministry that can help the members cope with change, rather than seek to what? Control it. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. Shared ministry offers a place to reflect and respond to rapid and discontinuous change. That is change that has gaps in it. It gives a space for issues to be discussed collectively and where reactions to change can be evaluated and responded to. It encourages others to offer their skills and experiences and take on new responsibilities. Learning presupposes setbacks. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be blocks. Guess what? There's even going to be failures. What a concept. Shared ministry seeks to make congregations a place where people can take risks and sometimes get it wrong. It is a process that is one of learning for clergy and laity alike, one that encourages the whole congregation to become one in this quest of learning and growth. Now, this is from Renee Ruhutsky. She is currently the Congregational Life Consultant and Program Manager for Leadership Development. These are her words. I like what she has to say. We must encourage church leadership by considering the word encourage literally, to fill with courage. Courage comes from the heart, from cor, actually, French for heart. If the church has been a place of transformation and meaning making for someone, they will grow to love it. In the meantime, they will likely have experienced some type of healing and spiritual growth and achieve a measure of evident health and wholeness within the community. That's a person who is ready for leadership. That's the person who is ready for leadership and who should be approached to discern where their talents would be best used. Brother, you can come on and sit down. You can come and sit down.
I'm a bit tall, I don't want to bother.
It's okay. It's all right. Come on and sit down. Oh, no. No, you haven't. Church leaders must be equipped with opportunities and language by which they can share their inner and outer lives, if you will, and what got them here. So that everyone knows the leaders are here not because of a sense of obligation, but because of love, because of, not because of power and influence, but because the congregation has changed them in some ways. And it's wrong, she says, to appoint church leaders who've not demonstrated that love and appreciation and gratitude, or what she calls spiritual maturity. It is wrong to invite those people to leadership positions in the community. Does this seem too idealistic, she says? Yeah, it does. But we all know that we're short on leaders, but we're not short on love. And so she's saying a change in consciousness comes first. Intention matters. And since we are now a mid-sized congregation, we have a little more leeway. We don't have to have people on boards and what have you, because we can't find anybody else. We didn't have that luxury at first. We need a body, so we'll get them on. And then you go through the church here going, what have we done? And they are probably asking the same thing. When we have the intention to have every leader of every ministry team be someone who has experienced and demonstrated a sense of being blessed and blessed for his or her experience, that matters. So we're operating out of a blessing model than out of a desperation model. It's very important. Church members, friends, newcomers, and leaders should be nurtured in spiritual practice and equipped with the language of our faith traditions so that they can articulate their gifts. That's part of my job. I can assist with that. And so whether you want to call it God or the source, it doesn't really matter. We're not going to fight over this. But there has to be some kind of some deeper yearning of the human heart if you want to serve. And so we need to be in the practice, this is what she's saying, in regular practice of spending time talking about our spiritual experiences. If you don't like the word spiritual, then your interior life, right, arose by any other name. It should be as natural as a potluck. Thank you, Jesus. We should be ready to turn conversations, this is what she's saying, and I'm sure we agree, away from petty gossip to deeper reflections. I'm hearing you. The congregation should consider that part of being in covenant together. Instead of gossip and simmering discontent, how about, okay, that was fun, but given that we don't know what everybody is thinking, we should either ask them directly or change the subject. Who should you be calling on this week? She uses this example. If I go to the gym, she's talking about our churches, and people are sprawled out on, or napping on the floor of the aerobic studio, I will think the gym management is not just remiss, but it's nuts. But she says it's no different in the church. We're all there for heart strengthening of a different kind. Leaders should be empowered to be able to say, would you get off the floor, please, and you can take a nap at home. She says this isn't about loving people, it's about being clear what your congregation is for. Napping on the floor of the aerobic studio is just not part of our mission, so we won't be addressing your complaints about the pillows. Leaders should be able to challenge people who constantly want to gossip about the minister to instead talk about their own ministry or about the church's ministry. She says, as a clergy person, I am always amazed how often people take my name in vain. I hear that Vicky doesn't want to do this or doesn't want us to do it. Or I didn't ask her because I heard that she didn't like it. And she says most of the time, this is totally manufactured information, sometimes masquerading as lies. Misunderstanding sometimes. In any case, these statements should always be treated as suspect, and the minister should be asked about such claims. Taking the minister's name in vain is one way that change-resistant folks maintain the status quo. It's the same game as lots of people are saying, and you want to ask who exactly? Are they contributing, these people, in any positive or productive way to the ministry and mission of the church? No, then we have to move along. Are leaders in your community actually allowed to lead? Or do they have to have permission? Only to establish careful traditional agendas and to ask for permission for every tiny step they take towards institutional health and mission fulfillment. For every step forward, is there an interminable process of obtaining permission from every critic and worrier? Why is that, she asks. Who holds your congregation hostage? Every congregation I've ever worked with at any point in the process of change always has someone raise their hand to express the fear that if we do such and such, somebody's going to leave. Yeah. She says the response is simple. Bring them in if they want to come in. If they can't come in, then you have to let them be nourished where they need to go. Tell them that change is coming. Visit with them to help adjust them to the change. Teach them a new technology. Assign change mentors to make sure that these people know that these are new times and new practices and there's new technology. use change and innovation as an opportunity to forge bonds. If we believe that revelation is not sealed, and we say we believe that as Unitarian Universalists, neither should we resist responding to new times with new practices. To resist change is to deny Unitarian Universalist theology, or any theology for that matter. How is this any less hypocritical than of what we love to accuse religious conservatives of? She says, move on. Move on. Liberal religion, she's going on, must have a broader mission than to collect the religiously wounded and enable them to stay that way. It's a natural psychological response. You know, we find a church, boy, this church I was in, I found you use, I feel at home, and you find relief when you're in a group of people who have similar dissatisfactions and wounds from traditional and conservative religion. But that's no place to stay and build an identity. It especially confounds me, she writes, when Christian congregations enable permanent victims, as to do so is contrary to their so-called gospel. Do you worship a healing God? Do you or do you not want to follow the path of this man who you say bade people to pick up their pallets and walk? She says, I don't get it. Neither do I. Do we work as hard to dismantle entrenched victimizations as we do to dismantle oppression? Just as we challenge the separate specialness claimed by the privileged, so should we critique the divisiveness perpetuated by those who build victim camps in our churches and throw rocks from the outskirts. Just throw rocks from the outside, but don't offer anything to change except that this is the way we've always done it. We say, you are welcome here. There is a hospital wing here, but you can't take up permanent residence in the wing. Get better and leave the bed open for the next person. We must monitor the wing of the church, recognizing that ministering to just one person in one bed requires all of our resources. We are fellow pilgrims. We are not saviors. We are not social workers or even nurses. We must be clear about the difference. You feeling me? Well, you feeling her too. She says, what would liberal religious communities look like if there was no religious right? What if we spent much less time analyzing what they're doing, engage with them as equals, if they will allow it, and we disagree and get on with it? What would our sermons sound like, our readings, our prayers, our inner lives? She talks about the 12 steps, we become reactors rather than actors. How would we, as you use, articulate and talk about religious life, commitment, theology, and community if we didn't have fundamentalist and evangelical people to define ourselves by comparison? That's heavy. Because if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's like when you ask somebody what they believe and they can only tell you what they don't believe. I mean, it's a start, but that's not the question. Have we not yet realized that to most of the unchurched world, all religions are basically the same? The theological and doctrinal distinctions between us, we love to debate over, and we've done this for centuries, but people who are invisible, who are unchurched, they could care less. They don't care. To the non-affiliated and unchurched people, churches are places where people do weird, old-fashioned stuff and think weird, old-fashioned things. And so if we're not in the community virtually and actually being known and respected, being interested and interesting, pushing back against those stereotypes about church people, we are putting our light under a bushel. We don't want to proselytize because it's too churchy. You can't put out a pretty church sign and newspaper ad and expect people to come anymore, she says, unless you live in the Bible Belt, or especially if you live in the Bible Belt. We have to work to actively shift the perception of church and church people. So we can't evangelize by smugness either, by we're UUs, and we get it, and you don't. You can't do that. It's not helpful. We have to risk being genuine, sincere, enthusiastic about our religious communities and the good that we do. From the minister to the ministries, we have to encourage our leaders. We make healing and spiritual maturation an expectation. You got to get off the aerobic floor. You got to get up. Stop defining ourselves as a reaction to the religious right. Push back against the common perception that church people are petty and fussy. In other words, shared ministry is learning to let our life shine. There you have it. Now, I think that we do some of that here. We are, we don't have, the larger churches, it's harder to do. I was in a large church in New York, and this was before, but they had adopted the minister as administrator, the CEO model. Have you been in churches like that? Asheville has that, where it is, and it's not a critique, but they have 600 and some members. But Mark did a great job. He was there for a while, but it's the CEO model, where the board is still running the church, but all that other stuff goes to the, most of that stuff, administrative, goes to the minister. We will never probably be that big, and that's okay. I like the original model, but I'm not in that church, where you run the church. You run the church. The congregation. That's the way it is. And that's the way we try to have it here. Are we perfect? No. We are growing. And we've had some ups and downs, and we will continue to, but that's how you grow together. But we have a shared ministry here. We can expand it. So there it is. I would encourage you to call the UUA and see what they have, especially if you're a leader in the church. Like I said, I'm doing this difficult conversation one tomorrow night, but they have a lot to offer. Please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing our closing hymn this morning, number 159. Just an aside, Jeffrey didn't come, and neither did Susan. But I think Susan Stone's birthday is tomorrow, so if you see her, just give her a shout.
We have the wrong number.
No, we would be 159.
318.
Okay.
318.
Okay, well, that's just the same thing. Yeah.
159.
Actually, it's in there. This Is My Song is the same melody as this. It's just different lyrics. So forgive me. I told you we make mistakes here. Right? Yeah. 159. Let's go with 159. Come on, y'all. Change Did we finish that? Oh, no. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, and which puts to flight all of our fears, and which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. And I guess I'll see you guys at 12:30. Have a wonderful day.